Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be a brief little discussion video on Psychopaths, episode 14. Another brilliant one yet again, and once again showcasing the brilliant detective skills of Kagami. He was really on top of his game in this episode as we're dealing with two seemingly random murders and a strange helmet device that comes into play. Now, he's one of the first people that recognizes this helmet is sort of the center of what's going on, but little does he know, and little do we know at first, just how far that goes. He is the first to say, though, that this probably likely links back to Makishima and how right he turns out to be, because, of course, it's all motivated by Makishima's wanting to bring society to its knees for its lack of understanding how threatening the Sybil system is to it. It basically has created a bunch of, roving cattle being led by the system, and this just disgusts Makishima. But as I say, this guy is a latent criminal. He's beyond latent criminal. He should probably be executed if Sybil has any say, and we know that the people in the higher-ups of the organization Kagami and all of them work for, Ginoza got his orders in the last episode to bring Makishima in alive so they could just spirit him away in the middle of the night and keep it under wraps. But it's very intriguing that Makishima is reporting all of his doings to someone else, as we see in this episode. Now, getting back to the actual murders, these helmets are fascinating because they represent the first steps, the baby steps of Makishima's ultimate goal. And I can only, speculate as to the ramifications of just how far and wide Makishima's plans are going to go. He got something stolen for him by a bunch of would-be thugs who thought they were going to be, besting Makishima by stealing his wares and his helmet and everything like that. And sure enough, he ends up offing them toward the end of the episode. But when it comes to these two other seemingly random murders, I think it was more so a message. It was more so a message to say, hey, look, this is what's coming. Be prepared. Whether that was directed at Kagami and his fellow enforcers and Akane and all of them, I don't know. But as we see, these helmets are very dangerous things because what they do is they throw a wrench in the works. They throw the entire Sybil detecting system to be able to detect psychopaths and criminal coefficients completely out of whack. They can make it so that somebody can walk up to a random stranger in the street, brutally murder them, and not one question is raised about what's happening. Now, the thing that really is frightening about this, set aside how frightening a device like that would be in this kind of society, how about how frightening society itself is? You had a bunch of people just standing there staring, gawking and gaping at this unfolding murder that was going on, and they had no idea what was happening. They can't comprehend because they are so used to being led that this is a murder. This is somebody suffering, being killed in front of their own eyes. They didn't even report it because they can't comprehend it. What kind of society is this? And so therein lies the evidence that essentially the message Makishima is trying to put across is the correct one, that the Sybil system is wrong, that society is a bunch of brain-dead idiots and it needs to start living like human beings again. As he says in this episode, the problem is he's quite off his rocker himself. He is a criminal. He is probably the world's worst criminal, and I can only imagine that it would take him almost scuttling the entirety of the world, of this society, bringing it to its knees. And could this society, walk away from that? I'm sure there are some people like the enforcers and stuff like that who they are on top of their game. They are thinking for themselves. As we see with Kagami, he is using his thinking skills in his detective work, but we see that the majority of society is the antithesis of that. They don't think for themselves. So it's almost like, will Makishima's plan be more dooming and damning for society than what he hopes, freeing of society? But getting back to these helmets, these are really horrific devices if it means that, as we find out in this episode through Kagami's investigative work, he suspects that somehow or another this thing is blocking out the correct reading procedure for the psychopaths and the hue coloring and everything like that. Little does he actually piece together, though, until Akane Akane is accosted by one of the killers that they track down, who is an obsessive, stalker of this woman who was brutally murdered in front of the crowd. It turns out he was obsessed with her. He was a co-worker with her, and when they get back to his apartment, he jumps Akane, and Kagami points his Dominator at this guy, but it reads Akane's Psycho-Pass level, so automatically it clinks in his mind. This is parodying, if you will, copycatting the Psycho-Pass of nearby people. And basically, they chase this guy down. Shinon is back at headquarters directing all of these drones so they can make this guy go into an area where there's nobody. There's nobody else's Psycho-Passes that he can parody. And at that last moment, I just had to laugh when essentially it picks up on Kagami's Psycho-Pass, and they nail him. They basically stun him. They shoot him with the stun setting. But you have Tomome standing there. What do you really think of somebody getting shot that has your Psycho-Pass? And I love Kagami's reaction to that. I'm just thankful that it was on the stun and not the eliminator mode, to basically explode this guy. But, that's the crux of this episode. It was setting into motion what I can only guess to be some big machinations ahead from Makishima. And we're seeing that Akane is still bringing with her the doubts of using the Dominator and the system, and she really needs to find her legs again. And I can only, be fearful for her, because of course we know that everyone around her is worried she may suffer like Kagami had in the past with the loss of his partner, to be demoted, to be given a high criminal coefficient and everything like that. And it's just a really intriguing, exciting series. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this episode, if you've seen it, and otherwise, that'll be it from me. So I'll catch you later. Peace.